All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about the question of whether Terence Crawford, who just took to Twitter to say there are a lot of people are talking about stuff that don't mean nothing, is referring to Jaron Boots Ennis, calling him out, and fans trying to make that fight get made. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about Terence Crawford, the WBO champion, a recent cryptic tweet that he let out, which is pretty much in line with things that he's been saying and things his camp has been saying. And we're going to also talk about Jaron Ennis calling him out. But before we get into that subject matter, to the meat of the video, excuse me, let me make sure to ask you and remind you if you wager on sports, boxing, baseball, basketball, doesn't matter, please go to busr.ag/Fanon. Use the promotional code Fanon. When you deposit $10, you will get an additional $150 to wager with. And also make sure, if you're not subscribed to the channel, to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon and hit all notifications so that you can get notified when we release more videos. All right, let's get to this, man. Terence Crawford is a very, very odd dude, man, because no matter how much free publicity he gets, he does not like it. Terence Crawford is the WBO champion and should be getting a fight with Errol Spence Jr., which you would think would be one of the biggest fights in boxing. However, the PBC, when Tim Smith, who was the director of communication, spoke about the fight, said what a lot of people knew, which was that Terence Crawford is really not that big a star. He's not been promoted properly by Top Rank, and as a result, his pay-per-views have not done well, right? Also, Terence Crawford himself files a lawsuit against Top Rank and says, that part of the problem with him, well, he's breach of contract on one end, right? Saying that Top Rank and Bob Arum and Top Rank did not satisfy certain obligations related to the contract. But in the conversation, he also mentions how they do not know how to build or how to promote black fighters. They didn't admit that they didn't know how to promote black fighters, right? Did not want to, and didn't give him the same type of promotion that he gave other fighters, right? But then he goes out in public and does exactly what he's not supposed to do, and he rejects the exact type of promotion that have made other people stars, and that is people on YouTube talking about you on a daily basis, regardless of whether that is a good thing or whether or not you personally think that that is a bad thing, right? So Terence Crawford says a whole bunch of people talking about things that don't mean anything. Now, what could he possibly be referring to? Seeing is that most of the conversation that goes around about Terence Crawford is whether or not he's going to sign with the PBC, whether or not he's going to fight fighters like Jaron Ennis, if he's not able to get the fight with Errol Spence Jr., whether he would take a pay cut, for the Errol Spence Jr. fight, all of that type of stuff, right? Which are all things that to him may not mean anything, but to boxing fans, keep his name relevant to them. And if he would embrace that, instead of rejecting it and clowning and dismissing people for trying to talk about him and actually being interested in him, maybe he would not have the issue with needing to be promoted better. If you look at the other people who have been successfully promoted by black fighters that are being successfully promoted right now, all of them have these type of conversations going on around them all the time. Deontay Wilder literally went from somebody that was very well known, now similar to Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is well known, and nobody should argue that that's not the case. Anybody that knows boxing knows who Terence Crawford is. When Terence Crawford goes on regular ESPN, Terence Crawford gets millions of people that watch him on regular ESPN. Same thing happened was with going on with Deontay Wilder and Showtime. When he fought on Showtime, he was the biggest drawing name on Showtime when he was on regular Showtime, right? But people were saying, no, people don't know him. He's never done a pay-per-view, this, that, and the other thing. But then a big conversation went on around him and Anthony Joshua. And as a result, people started siding with Deontay Wilder. Other people would be insulting Deontay Wilder and saying he's not this, that, and the other thing. But as a result of that, Deontay Wilder's presence actually grew. Same thing took place with Floyd Mayweather Jr. If you were around at the time before he became Money Mayweather and he was Pretty Boy Floyd, the same conversation was going on about Floyd Mayweather Jr. fighting Oscar De La Hoya when Floyd Mayweather Jr. was at lightweight and at super featherweight at 130 pounds and at 135 pounds. He was saying, look, I'm a better fighter than Oscar De La Hoya. I want to fight Oscar De La Hoya. And there were a bunch of people saying, no, you can't do it. You're not that good, this, that, and the other thing. However, the more people talk bad about him and the more supporters that Floyd Mayweather actually got. And over time, it led into him getting that enough groundswell where he could get that fight. What Terence Crawford does for me, is just amazing that right in the face of all of that, he still will reject people that are actually talking about him and saying that they want to see him fight. It is not an insult to Terence Crawford to say that people want to see Terence Crawford fight Jaron Ennis, or that they want to see Terence Crawford move up and fight Jermell Charlo, or all of these different type of conversations that are going on, right? So, for example, I'm saying that, that he's saying people are talking about a lot of nothing. Well, one of the things that people are talking about that is very real is the possibility that the only PBC fighter he may actually get in position to fight is Jaron Ennis, because Jaron Ennis is at 147 pounds. Cameron Duncan, who is the promoter of Jaron Ennis, believes that Jaron Ennis will be able to beat him, right? That is an actual potential fight that could take place, and something that is building a conversation that is building Jaron Ennis, and a conversation that would build Terence Crawford, along with any of the other interpretations that people could have about the cryptic messages that Terence Crawford leaves, man. It just seems to me, man, that it's like he's the type of dude that would cut his nose off to spite his face. Even the idea, the fact that, people are talking about him signing with Al Heyman, and the reactions that come out of his camp about how, he would more likely retire than sign with Al Heyman and go join those guys over there at the PBC. So it's like, I don't know, man. I don't really know if, the way that lawsuit, my understanding of that lawsuit talks about the proper promotion and not getting proper promotion. Maybe that's the case with Top Rank, and it really does look like it is. But it also doesn't seem like Terence Crawford is the type of guy that is really going to, embrace the reality of promotion as it applies to social media, which honestly is really doing the best job of promoting people in these kind of canned beefs that people are having on, between fighters, right? A lot of the conversation about Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Conor McGregor was YouTube based, right? MMA fighters MMA fans, going at it with boxing fans about who would be the better fighter, who's the real fight, right? Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury numbers did really well, and they wound up making a lot of money based off the back and forth between them two. Obviously, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. But, Terence Crawford sees how he sees it, wants to label people as haters or wasting their time talking about it. I'm telling you, man, the last thing that boxers really want right now, should want, is for YouTube channels and Twitter channels and Instagram conversations not to involve them. And right now, dude, there's a lot of conversations going on with Terence Crawford that really Terence Crawford could take advantage of, man. It could honestly lead towards more people knowing him and being willing to pay for his fights. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.